Something about TrueCar a lot of people don't know. Using TrueCar can help you buy a used car or pre-owned if you want to sound fancy. TrueCar users, I am one. I have the TrueCar app on my phone. I love my truck. I knew what I wanted on my truck. And with the TrueCar.com and the TrueCar app, you get to see what other people have paid for that vehicle, so you know when they're going above the price. And what TrueCar does is they locate the vehicle for the price you want. On average, TrueCar users save over $3,000 off MSRP. Connect with your local certified dealers of your choosing so you can enjoy a quick, easy buying experience. Jeff Cesario, I went to buy a Mustang in the Valley when I first moved to California. I wanted a convertible Mustang with chrome rims, and the guy said to me, let me ask you a question. How often do you really think you're going to use a convertible in California? That was an actual sentence. Chrome rims, you have to clean them. It's a whole fucking thing. And I'll tell you, Astro, on Lancashire, I go, I'm going to go. He goes, you want to drive one of these? I go, no. Like, he's eating it. He goes, you want some brisket? He was eating brisket. How often can you use a convertible in California? I'm like, I don't know, 11 months in a row? I wish then I had TrueCar. Over 3 million cars have been sold. I got one of them by TrueCar users. TrueCar Certified Dealer Network, over 13,000 TrueCar certified dealers nationwide. Save time, save money. Get the TrueCar app or TrueCar.com now.
Put your name on it. Just put your name on it. That's all I say. Be a man or a woman. Put your name on it.
Well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads.
How the fuck you gonna know how to be great if you don't study greatness? Look at the game change.
Donuts.
If you want a battle, it's either that you will or you won't.
You know, you're not a bad-looking man, Mr. Gals.
But you are, Blanche. You are in that chair.
There's something wrong with us. Something very, very wrong with us.
Hey, man!
All right, let's party. Jeff Cesario's in the house. Jeff Cesario's in the house. Mohr Stories podcast. It's like you've been on this 20 times already, no?
No, it's my second time on your podcast.
I think it's because of the NASCAR awards. And the
It
amount
felt
of,
like.
Yeah, it's the amount of time shared shoulder to shoulder with me essentially wasting your time.
No.
That I feel like we're never apart.
Not a waste of time. That was a fun gig.
It sure was. At Real Jeff Cesario, Cesario. At Real Jeff Cesario. You're an excellent favoriter and retweeter.
Oh. Yeah, I like to.
Brought to you by
Schlatzman's Malt Liquor. It's granite filtered for your protection.
That's in full disclosure to our dear listener. Chet Waterhouse is a character you do on Steve Gorman's Sports on Fox Sports Radio, and you just call in and give like sports updates, and you make up the greatest sponsors that are the Speedo. What was the Speedo one?
This portion of the broadcast brought to you by Burlap Skimpy Lingerie. The less there is, the less it itches. For her lap, try Burlap. Also, Stupidos. Bathing suits for really dumb guys.
I appreciate that, Jeff Cesario, with your live read. 40s announcer. Here we are. The World Series, business as usual, folks. Indians, Cubs again and again. There's a real live black man on the field. Be careful, folks, and don't let the gals vote. Especially if they're not wearing the burlap Speedo.
Exactly.
It doesn't really work without the 40s music.
No, you got to have the newsreel.
The neighbors think
March of Time.
The neighbors think I'm filming a John Waters movie. Hi, everybody. Who's your favorite announcer of all time?
Probably Ray Scott of the Packers. And then actually I liked a guy out of Wisconsin named Earl Gillespie. I don't know if you ever heard Earl. Earl did the Packers. He did the Braves. And he did Wisconsin football when I was a kid, and they were horrible, and he made them sound interesting, and that's why I loved him. He would do this kind of thing. There's the kickoff from Illinois. Billy Merrick under it for the Badgers at the 5. He's churning, spinning, driving to the 6. You go, Earl, I think he fell down. But, I'm 9. I'm listening to this going, this is the greatest, most exciting thing ever. I got to go to Wisconsin.
That's the job.
Yeah.
Earl
Gillespie.
I'm like, no, it's not Earl Watson. That's impossible.
Earl Gillespie. And then he wound up doing the weather on like the ABC affiliate in Milwaukee for a while with Albert the Alley Cat, which was a puppet. This is back when they would try things like that.
Could you see him die inside on the broadcast?
Yes.
Thank you, Albert.
You could. Here's a guy who called the Ice Bowl on Packers radio. Packers radio.
Dan Reeves.
Yeah.
Was in that? Was Giant Packers?
Yeah, I know. Ice Bowl was
Packers and
Cowboys.
Cowboys. Yeah.
Yeah.
I said Packers like that was the one I got
Jethro
wrong.
Pugh went right over Jethro Pugh for the TD.
That's when Reeves had his tooth go through his lip. No, I don't know if anybody knows it, but he told me that, and all I could think was, I had no idea you were that fucking old. As he's talking to me. Isn't it a shame Jeff Fisher tied Dan Reeves for the losingest coach? It's like, no, Dan Reeves been in like 3-4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
You're a bum with a porn mustache. Get out. And then he fucking quits or whatever, fired like right before the Thursday night game against the Seahawks. So we were cheated out of watching a guy that should be the all-time losingest coach.
Yeah.
He even failed upwards, and then he failed sideways before he failed more upwards.
Boy, that is a classic modern American story right there, and
Jeff Fisher's
deservedly
mustache?
so in the modern NFL. Yeah.
Failing upwards is
Yeah.
something you have never done. I don't know when you failed.
If I fail, baby, I fail downwards. I know how to fail.
Well, you were basically showrunner for the Dennis Miller talk show.
Dennis Miller Live on HBO, yeah. That was
And-
after his syndicated talk show, which they had short shrifted him on. They told him they'd give him a year. They gave him 6 months and pulled a plug on it. But it was a more traditional talk show. He had guests, and if you know anything about Dennis, he probably doesn't have the comport or the patience to talk to the third lead on a sitcom that's probably going to get canceled in the next 2.5 hours.
Yeah,
So
I have no
So that
such
probably
problem.
wasn't the format for him anyway.
I have no such problem. I have no greater joy than being number 5 on a call sheet, walking in going, hey, have you guys seen my avocados? I left them in the freezer when you guys were on vacation. You were in our house? Yeah. I'll see you in the next episode.
That's right. That's
Here's
right.
my money. So your favorite announcer is Earl Gillespie.
Earl Gillespie, the best.
I grew up with the Yankees, and it was a 3-man booth, which is odd in its concept. Now it is. Then it was just normal. It was Phil Rizzuto, Frank White. The black guy
White.
sounded very
Sure.
white.
Yeah.
And Bill Messer. It's either Frank White.
Bill White.
Bill White, Frank Messer.
Yeah.
And
Frank White
Messer-
played shortstop, Kansas City.
He's a brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had a very white, like Tony Gwynn-like voice.
I can't remember 'cause
Rupert Jones,
Bill-
into the Mariner ship.
Bill White, who was a black guy, then went on
That's
to
who it
lead
is.
the Union
Yeah.
or something
So
like
it's
that.
Bill White, Frank Messer, Phil
probably have that
Rizzuto, and the three of them, you could not get more different human beings.
Yeah.
Because Frank Messer's home run call was, there it goes, it's still going. A, B, C, you later. And it was like, wow. And as a kid, you don't realize it's hacky.
Yeah.
And then I remember they were in some weird conversation because Phil Rizzuto would lull them in. You know, my wife made chicken parmesan last night, and I didn't even finish it. And
I love
somebody
those.
told me Vin Scully, I believe, told me was no, it was Vin Scully. Don't ever start a story with 2 outs.
Oh, wow.
So he started some
That's
crazy.
life advice. That's not just baseball announcing advice. Don't ever start a story with 2 outs. That is brilliant.
So as Vin.
Wow.
And there must have been 2 outs. But what happened was Rupert Jones had a home run. They were playing the Mariners. And Phil Rizzuto's go, and she makes Manicotti. And Rupert Jones deep into the Mariner ship. Go on. Deep into the Mariner ship. Go on. You had the radio. You didn't even know what the Mariners
Oh,
what's,
my
what's
goodness.
Seattle?
Yeah.
And then Frank Messer was ABC, see you later. And, you know, as we know from Meatloaf albums, Phil Rizzuto, holy cow, I think he's going to make it.
I love those kinds of calls. Dennis Miller and I found one of the greatest and most obscure ones ever. It was a...
I grabbed my pen, and the moment did you see it? The moment Jeff Cesario at Real Jeff Cesario started speaking, I went to pick up my pen. The compass that we'll talk about in a moment went, this won't fail me. Go on. You and Miller.
Rob Schneider was a up-and-coming comic at the time, still working out of San Francisco, caught this game between the Giants and the Mariners on TV, had the presence of mind to put his cassette player, this is how far back it was, in front of the TV and tape it. It was the classic middle innings where the guy who does TV innings 1 through 3 and 7 through 9 leaves to go do radio. So the guy's left alone in the TV booth of this Giants-Montreal game, and he gets himself into this horrific anecdote about Al Kaline's baseball camp. And
Al
it takes
Kaline.
Al Kaline's
Yeah.
baseball camp in Michigan, northern Michigan, getting these kids from all over. And this young black youngster from the inner city of Detroit, and I think he was mentally challenged as well as black. And he's saying everything wrong. And it's all in between the call of the game. This is a very difficult upbringing for this young man to be mentally challenged and retarded, to say nothing of black. Line shot, that's going to drop for 2. You know, it's like that. It's like that amazingly wrong that it's perfect. I don't know who the announcer was.
When you find out, it'll be on jmoore.com because we always put content from the podcast
It's
up.
unbelievable. And it goes on, and he's trying to talk in nice terms about this kid finally gets a hit.
I mean, to be special is one thing. To be special and black.
It goes on and on. Dennis Miller and I
Speaking of
laughed
2
for a
strikes,
week. Here's
there's
how
2
it
to kill
ends.
the movie.
I'll just summarize it for you.
Montreal and
the Giants, probably mid-'80s,
okay,
maybe late 80s.
I got it. Okay,
And here's how it ends. This guy's, and it takes him 3 innings to finish this. And there's one after another of appallingly hilarious juxtapositions between this poor kid's story and baseball. But it ends with this. So finally, the second baseman on the other team lets this dribbler go through his legs for a base hit, and this young, black, retarded youngster finally makes it to first with a single, a bright moment in an otherwise strange and misty world. Runners on the move, double steal! That's how it ends.
I love this so much, and I will
Oh, my God.
find it.
When he hits that line, Dennis and I would just look at each other for the next 20 years and just go, runners on the move, double steal. It's perfect.
Dennis is from Pittsburgh. You're from Minnesota.
I'm from Wisconsin.
Wisconsin. I always say Minnesota. Wisconsin. So
North end of the Rust Belt.
you people don't realize like that was like the heartbeat of the entire country. Detroit,
Yeah.
Buffalo, because they come in through the St. Lawrence River.
Right.
They being the foreigners, the white foreigners from over there.
Right, exactly.
And they come through the St. Lawrence River, through the Great Lakes. They'd hit all the cities,
Yeah.
and that's the whole country operated. From there.
We were just about an hour north of Chicago. My hometown is about 75,000, probably now it's about 100,000, but it was blue collar all the way. It was about 30% Italian when I was growing up, and American Motors was there, Jockey Menswear, McWhite Rope, Triclover
Jockey
Ladish,
Menswear?
Anaconda American Brass. It was all factories.
30% Italian in Wisconsin.
Yeah, is crazy.
Yeah.
So
It was crazy to me. Like
thank God Lombardi did a good job.
What the hell's going on out there?
We'll run out of the state had he not.
Kevin Todd, thank you, Kevin Todd. This guy doesn't miss. He's the guy you call. It's who the professionals turn to. If you want to get knowledge, 80% on my radio show. The guy never missed. He'll give you his lock. There's all these guys with like 900 numbers. And you're like, well, if you're so great at this, why do you have a 900 number? Toll free, Kevin Todd. I put my name on this. And it's thesportsbrokers.com. On Twitter, he's at Kevin Todd, TSB, as in The Sports Brokers. He's 70% in basketball.
Wow. That's ridiculous.
What was it? Thursday last week, Sacramento had 10 against the Cavs. They went to double OT. It was like a 2-point game. I'm like, I never even had to sweat. I'm not saying, that I would sweat. And then Georgia Tech, like who the fuck thinks about Georgia Tech?
Yeah, the Ramblin'
like,
Wreck,
you
baby.
know what? I got an itch. I just got a
That's
weird thing about the Yellow
amazing.
Jackets, man. Plus 10, win, boom,
Wow.
crack. This guy's nuts, and he removes all emotion because you're like, the Jets,
Yeah.
I'm a Jets fan. They're going to kill me. Oh, that's what he said. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah,
and you
gotcha.
just let it ride. Sportsbrokers.com, Kevin Todd.
He also has the perfect name for a jingle. Kevin Todd.
Chet Waterhouse now will tell you about the sportsbrokers.com's Kevin Todd. Chet?
Man, this young kid from a family of 9, a world of courage. He's got the heart of a lion, let me tell you. This young kid, Kevin Todd, he does not miss. And that's an area of your life you do not want to miss in. When it comes to finances, trust not your instincts. Do not trust your own instincts. They are wrong. Trust Kevin Todd.
Turning outcomes into income. Speaking of misses, strike three to Cleon Jones.
Brought to you by Daylight. It's everywhere till about 6:30 or so.
Kevin Todd. Seriously, thank you, Kevin Todd. Look, we've had a lot of offers about the advertisements like this, and you say no because you don't believe in the guys, and Kevin Todd's the guy. Look, there he is right there on my phone. Kevin Todd. TheSportsBrokers.com, 70% in hoops. Football, I think it was like 85%. It was insane. I don't know what analytics he's got going on. 800-220-6262, 800-220-6262. Start winning. I always feel like if you say the number with a certain jingle, 800-220-6262, 800-220-6262.
You made like a crow or something to make it memorable.
No, number one.
6262.
Here's Albert the Alley Cat with the phone number to Kevin Todd. 800-220-6262. Number one in the country. You can't say that unless it's true. That's Kevin Todd. And that's documented, my friends. You've heard me talking about him on Mohr Sports. Thursday Night Football, 8-0 on his guarantees this year.
Look, he's
8-0.
He's clearly good for the gross national product because
yes,
you trust him, and then you're not wasting 90 hours a week on fantasy football while the Koreans drive by us at 180 miles an hour. Get back to work and trust Kevin Todd.
Why did you have to say Koreans?
Well, they are. Look at that. Hyundai.
I don't know if that sounded like Clint
Kia?
at all. March Madness last year, 21-9.
That's them beating your kid in the math test.
Math, they can beat him on, but, in an alley, I want to make sure my kid can pin him against a wall and go, what'd you say to me? March Madness last year, by the way, that was easy. 21-9. Look at your bracket. That's impossible. Yeah. All right. So thank you, Kevin Todd. Thank you, Kevin Todd. TheSportsBrokers.com, 800-220. Christopher Walken, 800-220-6262. Oh! My man, where did you and Dennis Miller meet?
We met here in Los Angeles when we were both bucking for the 1:30 a.m. spot at clubs, and we just bonded. We were two sides of the same coin. Dennis clearly a little edgier, a little darker, and a little more focused. Dennis had a stronger. His f-stop was wow at 16, baby. He was focused.
I don't want to say Dennis was focused, but it was like somebody gave Jonathan Nash some Adderall. He snorted it through Stephen Hawking's urethra.
Helmut Newton trying a new fucking lens.
I don't want to get Kafka-esque here, but he used to be
so that's where we met, and we just bonded. We made each other laugh in the back of a room. I'll never forget the time.
That's why.
We were at, what was the place in the Valley? It used to be LA Cabaret. We finally got decent spots. This is maybe 84. We each had, he had 11:15, I had 11:30. We're looking forward to it. Finally, a decent spot in Los Angeles. 11:14, in walks Skip Stevenson. Coked out of his gourd, but he's a huge star at the time.
From Real People.
Yeah.
Sarah Purcell, Byron Allen.
He walks right on stage, does an hour and 15.
He doesn't say you
no.
guys.
Boom, right on stage. It was his home club. Zang, hour and 15. Dennis is whispering in my ear the entire time he's on. He's going, this motherfucker. And he's just making me laugh my ass off about these contradictions between Skip and a Valley club and a real career, et cetera, et cetera. And here's what made me a friend and a fan of Dennis's for life is 1:15 rolls around. Dennis finally gets on stage after Skip. The room bails. There's 3 people in the room. Everything he whispered in my ear, he did right on stage. And I thought, that's some balls. That's some commitment to who you are, what you know makes you funny, and how you just, I might as well not deviate from that anyway. And I said, word, that's it. I'll go to the ends of the earth for this guy.
And you did?
Yeah.
You know what's amazing is if any other comic had said that to you, and myself I can include here, you're like, you were just trying bits out on me, man? When a comic bro, I'm at the ATM, right? And you're like, yeah. And then this lady comes out, and then you realize, right before the third to last sentence, you go, this guy's fucking doing a bit. And I bought
Dennis was never ever like that.
He trusted that what he told you, nothing that he had planned was
Right.
going to top it, and he could tell the 3 people remaining. I just got bumped from by a guy named Skip.
Exactly.
This is my daughter Trot and Kenter. He does have a bit like that. Like, what kind of name is that? Wink Martindale. This is my son Rem Cycle. The Off-White album was the first comedy album I listened to like a crazy person.
Yeah.
Because it was the first time I was made aware of words, their placement, the impeccability and impossible placement of certain words in certain places, and way more important to me at the time, a hack from way back. If 30% of the crowd, that's their favorite thing, you've won. You can't
Yeah.
do an hour that way. But if you're like, hey, what's with this kabuki shit, Twyla?
Yeah.
Like, no, half the people listening have no idea what I just said. But
Yeah.
if you know what it
The
means,
other half are
you're
on the
like,
floor.
Jesus Christ, that's hilarious.
Yeah. And I'll say this. He never overworked anything. He got it to a place where he knew it felt right for him. He didn't belabor it. He wasn't one of those guys who, now, for the 90th time, let me go back to this joke. Maybe I can move a preposition. Or no, he just went, Jeff feels right to me. I'm fucking blasting this thing out of the T-shirt can, and we'll see how it goes.
Hey, NB, let's pick it up. I got a life to lead, cha-cha.
I know that
Because-
album, start to finish.
Yeah.
The comics I love know it start to finish. And I'll never forget, if I seem a little out of it tonight, it's because it's finally sunk in that Zamed has replaced Terrio on Dance Fever. Like the show had been off the air like 5 years. So it's already like half the audience, probably
Yeah.
not some, but his audience. You have to bomb a lot and stick to that fucking compass
Yeah.
that we'll talk about in a second,
Yeah.
that were telling me about in Vegas at the NASCAR Awards. And then you vet your audience, they vet themselves. So by the time you say that to George Washington University Theater, all 3,000 people are like, oh my God, Zamed and Dario. Zamed, there's a hoofer, huh? I haven't seen
Yeah.
choreography that stiff since the Lee Harvey Oswald prison transfer. He went from fucking Dance Fever to the assassination
Yeah.
of JFK's assassination person in a sentence, in what, not a sentence.
And it's so organic that
That's
you
an
don't even
important- hold on.
think that could, in anybody else's hands, that is a 2.5-foot ill-placed speed bump.
It's laborious,
And in his
but what you
hands-
said is really important.
In his hands,
It's so
organic
organic.
to who he
I don't
is.
know if anybody knows that. I didn't know that.
That's why even Seinfeld guys go, well, he's like a joke guy, and you go, no. He was like the original guy like that. That's who he is. That's his personality. It's completely organic to Jerry to tell jokes the way he tells jokes. He didn't consciously sit down and go, I've got a choice between law school, insurance, or maybe tinkering around with some jokes. No, he went, I have to do this. This is how I do it, so look out. And he just did it. And you go, oh my God. When it's organic, when it comes out of a guy's soul, out of the pit of his fucking stomach, you go, that's it. That's just who he is.
The important thing about both these guys is there has to be an audience that needs that piece of their pie chart filled. There needs to be
Yeah.
somebody that can hear Dennis Miller go,
That's true.
Charles Manson got a swastika tattooed to his forehead. That's my favorite act. Maybe my favorite joke of all. Not joke of all time, maybe. What better way to show the board you've pulled your personal thing together and you're ready to hit the streets? Like, if I read that, it'd be amusing.
Yeah.
In a book or a novel or a thing, an essay. But him say, what better way to show the board? You pulled, it's the way he says it, your
Yeah.
personal thing together, and you're ready to hit the streets.
I will never forget when I was producing his show for HBO. And this is to the point of how organic things are for guys like that. If you stay true to that, you're fine. And we had the show on the air, maybe 7 episodes at the time. Unfortunately, we
Dennis
were doing pretty
Miller's.
well. Dennis Miller live on HBO. And
Was that the one I was on? When I talked about Barry Sanders tapping out of the Russian
I
title to
can't
screw
remember.
over his dad?
It was the HBO one. That's all I don't know. I don't know about the previous talk show before that, but I do know that.
Well, you would have seen me. Is my
I don't know. Well, but there was so. I don't know if you were
Well-
on when I did the first 39. You might have done it after that because I only stuck around for 2 years. It was 39 episodes.
I just cockblocked this story you were going.
No, that's
so
all right.
Please continue.
So the HBO execs come to me after about 6 or 7 of these. Now, you got to understand, I went from, headlining clubs to executive producing a show for HBO literally overnight. I had no experience. And fortunately, it worked out, and B, Dennis stuck by me and just said, this is the guy I want. He understands me. So, and then fortunately on top of that, we had really good shows. We won an Emmy for our second show and an Emmy for our 8th show. So within the first 10 episodes, we had 2 Emmys. And suddenly HBO was on my side. They came to me and they go, listen, they were always on my side, but now they were like huge fans. You did it. You were able to translate Dennis to television. But about 10 minutes into every show, he seems to belch, or burp or something. It just seems it's very noticeable to us. And I go, really? So my first line of defense is to obfuscate. It's like, really, I hadn't noticed. I just thought it was a mannerism because I don't want to deal with this. And they go, no, it's not a mannerism. We think he's burping. So I have to go back. I look, and sure enough, he'd go, what you need to do if you're on top of your game is to, and he would have this.
Actually did.
He would actually, and I backtracked from there, and I realized he was eating close to the show. He'd always order a steak from the Palm. It was kind of a thing for him. He'd get a steak from the Palm, but he'd get it like 40 minutes before the show, and we were live. We hit live. So he'd eat, pound it down, then go out, and he's fine for 8.5 minutes, and then suddenly, that Béarnaise sauce kicks in, and he's done for. Just a huge belch on TV. So I go to Dennis. This is the most beautiful thing. I love this anecdote. It's my favorite of all. I go to Dennis. I go, Denny, listen, HBO kind of picked up on this thing where it seems like you kind of belch in 5, 10, 15 minutes into the show. I think maybe you're eating a little too close to the show. Why don't we back up your eat time about an hour? And he just looked me right in the eye and he goes, Jeffro, that's when I'm hungry. And that was it. I said, well, he's my guy. He's flying the fucking plane. I go back to HBO and I go, I'm sorry. That's when he's hungry. That's when he's going to feel the most comfortable eating. If he eats an hour before that, he's going to be uncomfortable. He's going to be cranky, and the show's not going to be good.
And they said, you're canceled.
No, they said, all right. They said, all right.
It's a
I haven't tried to hide it.
A lot of change and uncertainty in the country right now. Let me tell you something. When it comes to your retirement portfolio and life savings, you don't want it all sitting in the stock market. You want to diversify it. You should look like an EKG chart daily. Oof. Do what I did. Look into richuncles.com. Pretty neat, man. Rich Uncles, REIT. You know what that stands for, Jeff Cesario? Real Estate Investment Trust. REIT. They own commercial property, and then they collect rent, and they share it with people like you or I. However, the tenants are people like Citibank, Walgreens. They're actual respectable people. It's not a Russian guy in a sweatsuit scratching his stomach going, what rent? What rent you speak of? They collect rent from the best credit-worthy tenants. And folks like you get a monthly cash dividend. Currently a 7% annualized dividend. That's more than any bank, friends. Rich Uncles is ideal for IRAs. Great way to diversify your investment portfolio to add steady income. It's a Reg A Tier 2 offering. RichUncles.com, RichUncles.com, 855-RICH-UNCLES. Let Rich Uncles know you heard about them on the Mohr Stories podcast.
Rich Uncles REIT is seeking indications of interest concerning its Reg A Tier 2 securities offering. Any indication of interest involves no obligation or commitment of any kind. No money or other consideration is being solicited, and if sent in response will not be accepted. No sales will be made or commitments to purchase accepted until the offering statement is qualified. This media outlet is being paid under $2,000 by Rich Uncles for this single message.
I'm like you. The first thought is I'm defending. I wasn't there, and I'm like, what the? In my mind, and I'm pretty sure your mind goes the same way when somebody's telling you a story. You're like, what the fuck am I going to tell these people?
Yeah.
What am I going to tell Dennis?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's I would say to the network, the first thing I thought was like, no, that's what's so great. That's why we have Emmys, is because he's like the people watching.
Yes.
You don't want this polished. That's champagne. He's beer.
Yes. You're trying to think of anything so that you just don't have to go backwards and rebuild this.
This is after 2 Emmys?
Erector set. This is after 2 Emmys.
Okay. So for the listener, this is television in a nutshell. I've told a lot of stories when you pitch a show. It takes your soul out of your body, and you have to claim it back in random places that you don't know where it is. And you go, here's a piece, here's a piece. When Lifetime tells you, little too Lifetime for us, you go, ooh, how? Really? I didn't know that was possible. I just watched Mother May I Sleep with Danger. So to the listener, like Dennis is the guy that says, I'm going to have a show. I want you to run it because you get me.
Right.
You have no experience.
None.
And you said he's flying the plane. The bosses are indeed the network and the studio. There's two separate bosses.
Yeah.
They can cancel. They can remove lights. No audience next week, or all Japanese crew says there's nothing you can do about it, right? Time slots and all that.
Right.
However, you are aware of the fact that who's flying the plane?
Yeah.
Dennis is the pilot. If the pilot is sitting next to you complaining, nobody's flying the plane, you're going to crash. But the airline at any time can email you and text you like, we don't like the way this pilot's doing this.
Yeah.
But you need that fucking pilot in that chair.
It's a weird position, but it's one of the things I always found fortunate as a performer who reached some pretty good levels. You know, a Tonight Show, Letterman, my own specials, things like that. I had a notion of what it was like to be in complete command of a venue or of a show. So then when I do gigs as an EP, and most of my butter's breaded that way now, most of my bread's buttered that way now, is
your
as
butter
I
is
understand that's the pilot of the plane. You can debate, you can spitball, you can kibitz all you want, but when you find the level, when you find the moment at which your pilot likes to shut that door and be alone in the cockpit, that's that. For Gary Shandling, when I worked with Gary on Emmys and Grammys and things like that, it was about 3 or 4 days before. For Dennis, you could push him up to about the morning of. For other guys, it's a week out.
So
whenever it is, and they go, that's it.
That's when
I'm done. That's all the kibitzing is done. I want to digest this, and I want to do this my way. For you,
that's power.
It was about 2 days. In the NASCAR gig, I said about a day and a half.
Oh, I didn't realize this was...
Yeah, I just figured it out. I said, all right, I can see him going... starting to feel the command of the material, starting to go, no, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do... And I said, all right, everybody, let's just ease out of the cockpit and let him drive this motherfucker. Let him land it.
It's amazing, because unbeknownst to you, maybe beknownst to you, the amount of data that is told to you moments before you walk out on live television, inconsequential shit like when you go out there, you're going to go to where the microphone is. You're like, yeah. And when you're done, you're going to want to exit to that side because there's an orchestra to your left. Like, I'm going to climb over a fucking cello.
I know.
I got Henry Mancini with a tube pipe up my pip.
And I tell you, the more I can work gigs with the person in the cockpit, the more I can help deflect that stuff. That's why another great example with Gary was, the late, great Gary Shandling, was Judd Apatow and I, for a long stretch, late 80s, early 90s, would do just about anything Gary did, whether it was Tonight Show or the Grammys or the Emmys or whatever he was hosting. We would come in, and between the two of us, we could pretty much keep things away from Gary that he just didn't need to deal with, because he's taking on the monumental task of not only hosting an Emmys or a Grammys, but being funny while doing it.
And that's not a paid audience, and that's the people that want to be there being funny in front of an audience.
Yeah. So
3-4 days, he closes the door. This is fascinating to me, because I had zero idea that counter was going in your head, and I never knew you had left the cockpit.
Yeah, well, that's a good sign.
I never knew I was alone, because I was like, you heard me, I go like minutes, like it never stops. But then I'm thinking back to the NASCAR awards. And and if I remember correctly, which I do, you and I were up to about 4:35 a.m. on 2 consecutive nights with a packet of jokes. There was jokes submitted, jokes that were written by NASCAR writers, our guys, me, you, and by me I mean like 2. You guys wrote thousands of jokes, and we're just no, nothing political, nothing this. You can't say that because of the sponsor. You can't mention booze because these guys drive for a living and thing. And I don't know if you remember, I kept going, I have to pee again.
Yeah.
I didn't want you to go because
it's fun.
It's fun. But it had been so long since I sat with a guy and went, ooh, then we could tag that.
Tag it with
That's
this,
our runner, is that Dale Jr. shit sandwich that he likes to eat.
Yeah.
Figuratively, some kooky sandwich he loved, which wound up getting a bounce.
Banana mayonnaise sandwich. I don't know why I remember that.
And we had a lot of jokes like, Like FEMA wouldn't give this out. Elvis ate banana. What was it? Elvis ate banana and peanut butter.
Elvis would have told him, "Slow down, son.
Slow down." His favorite sandwich was banana and peanut butter, and he died on a toilet. Right. But I'm like, there was no. Then at one point, you get deliriously happy at the connection, and you realize the jokes mean the word. It's like when you say a word over and over till it loses its meaning. The jokes, we had no idea what was going to work or not at that point. No. But I wasn't letting you go.
No, it's fun and it's part of the process because if you're locked into that process, this whole riff we just locked in on as the runner for the show could be gone in 5 hours because something better comes along or something comes along to torpedo this, but you have the muscles to then put something else in. It's amazing. And you made some great game day decisions. I was really impressed.
Well, I'd like to hear about them. As Tom Berenger says in Platoon, well, I'd like to hear about it, potheads. But I want to tell you quickly, and this is what I'm going to get to next, is the amount of jokes that have to go each show. No one, like when you watch a monologue, people shit on Jay Leno all the time. You come up with 10 minutes of topical material with a staff.
Yeah.
And make it funny or funny enough that people that are not like you will never miss the show. And they actually turn the show off the moment the monologue's over. That's why you want to be the first guest. That's impossible. But the amount of jokes that go, and some of them are so great, but they won't track, or there's... are they going to get it the way we get it? And we had to cut so many jokes from the NASCAR.
Yeah.
And there's a giant mistake I made in hosting the NASCAR Awards, and I don't think I ever shared with you. And I want to talk about the compass you taught me about because dice rolled into my head. You want to talk Shandling. You said Jerry Seinfeld, Dennis Miller, Russell Brand, who you worked with on his live show.
Brilliant.
You've worked with the most different comics imaginable. And when we were in Las Vegas cobbling together the NASCAR Awards monologue, which wound up being 18 minutes long when they asked us for a 4-minute monologue. But if nobody's laughing, I have to go, I realize no one's laughing. I think that's my best discernible skill if I'm going to blow myself is in the moment, this is actually happening. I'm not crazy. That person sneezes. You're on stage, somebody sneezes, and you say, God bless you. Someone on the other end of the room laughs.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what would you do right here?
That's the variable no one on behind the scenes can understand, which is once the guy's out flying the plane, you don't know if you're going to hit a flock of geese, if you're going to hit turbulence. You don't know, and you have to trust your man out there to do it. And they were up in arms again, and to their credit, I mean, they were great people to work with. They were absolutely great. But they look at me backstage, and they go, at the end, they go, because it was 21 minutes the year before. Now, here's my producer instincts kick it in. They come up to me afterwards, and they go, it was 18 minutes. We wanted 11. And I go, hey, we chopped 3 minutes off of last year's
But I said to Barry Katz, it was shorter than the year before.
Yeah.
And then something got a laugh, and they got tagged, and somebody
and you had to dig in deep on somebody on something that got sort of an ooh.
Oh, somebody was tired.
It's not that a performer, especially a guy like you, Jay, can't handle an ooh. It's not it. It was tonal. You go, wait a second. This is an ooh. You're maybe 2.5 minutes in, and you go, I can't have an ooh now. I could feel your instincts going, I got to set a tone for what we're doing here, where you're going to have to push the border out a little further than you just did. So let me take 3 or 4 minutes and go, okay, I'm going to nudge you back on that ooh, and you're going to see everything's going to be okay. And it was, but it was just 4 minutes later.
What people don't realize is actually worse than not laughing at all, and it's worse than booing. Because as a comic
That's
in the real time, I don't understand what awe means.
Yeah.
Because I thought of it, you thought of it, they thought of it. We all agreed this is fucking hilarious. Let's get going. You say it either gets a laugh, gets less than a laugh than you thought, or it doesn't go over well, and you go, wow, it's not me, it's them, because we're comics.
Yeah.
So when they go, oh, it's like nobody hit a foul ball.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah, it means
So-
tonally we don't quite want to go there. And guess
But
what?
I
We're
don't know,
going there.
and I don't know why you don't want to go there.
Right.
And I must know then. It was Tony Stewart retired, and he celebrated by rolling a dune buggy and laying face down in the sand for 4 hours.
Right.
But they didn't moan at the dune buggy roll. It was Tony Stewart retired. They moaned, and I actually said, "I don't know why you moaned. He actually retired."
Yeah.
That's a factual statement.
Yeah.
So now I'm having like a TED talk in front of a bunch of people in tuxedos, but I needed to let them know unacceptable.
Right.
I didn't
Right.
even tell a joke part. The joke, by the way, we got away with him. Like, who knows? You know, the guy could have been whacked out on fucking ecstasy and LSD. He wasn't. He's square, despite what you think. He rolled a dune buggy and he laid in the dirt for two. It took,
Yeah.
and I think the joke was, how does it take 2 hours to find Tony Stewart? He's Tony, like, he's not some dude. Like, where's Tony is something that's said
Right.
often, especially when he gets in a dune buggy and disappears. Where is he? Who's got eyes on Tony? It's like
This is
being
a
an
guy
actor
who
on a-
regularly plays pranks by blowing off M80s. So he's got M80s and he's firing them off, and you're still missing Tony Stewart.
Just listen for the big bang. My friends, Valentine's Day, don't get cut short. Pro Flowers will always take care of it. If you're tired of guessing, what does she want? What do I get her? It's flowers. And if you don't know by now, maybe you should not be dating, married, or with other human beings. Easy, fail-proof. I'm telling you. Pro Flowers, free glass vase for $29.99. That's with 2 dozen. That's I'm not a math major, but I think that's Ricky Henderson's 24.
Pro Flowers, stop and smell the roses at Pro Flowers.
You know, speaking of roses, Pete Rose is on pace for 2,000 hits. I know it's only May. However,
Just talking to him down in the dugout about the St. Louis game. He was picking my brain. I don't know why.
Rupert Jones deep into the Mariner ship. Go on. So Pro Flowers, if you go to the store and buy like 2 dozen roses, it's not going to be $29.99. You can upgrade $9.99 more. You get 2 dozen long stem assorted roses, premium vase, and chocolate. She's going to dig it. Proflowers.com. The promo code is just the capital letter J. J is the promo code. One letter gets you this beauty of a deal, and you'll help me because they'll say, wow, whoever typed in the letter J, that's who we want to support again and again. So go to proflowers.com. Promo code is the letter J. Pick your flowers, then check out. 2 minutes tops. You got it. I use it. Take all the guessing out because as guys, we drive home from work and go, oh my God, it's Valentine's Day. And we're at like a grocery store going, where are your flowers? And they're like, over there by the ham. You don't want flowers that are next to the ham. Beep. The only way to get 2 dozen assorted roses with a free glass of vase, starting at $29.99, go to proflowers.com. The promo code is the letter J, capital J. Support my podcast and the sponsors. The promo code is J, proflowers.com. Promo code capital letter J. Don't wait, order today because this deal obviously expires soon. You told me about, I asked you, because working with Russell Brand and Dennis Miller, just using those two as an A and a Z. As far as comedy goes, you're beautiful, Jeff. And I would like to cover you in white effluvia, a beautiful ribbon. You're a good boy. Instead of a blue ribbon, let's work on the white. That's another level of democracy, isn't it? I have to write down things to say if I'm going to ad lib as him because he's too smart to ad lib as.
He works at light speed.
And I asked you, what is the common theme that the one string from Dennis Miller to Gary Shandling, but Dice, I realized, have you seen a show on, it's either Showtime or HBO?
Not yet, no.
It's Dice. As like he loves his kid, which he's an exceptional dad. Mm-hmm. And so when he breaks, you're like, oh, this gag, where he's going to be this guy. Because at the same time as like Dennis Wolfberg's acting crazy, and Seinfeld's the clean one, and
right.
Margaret Smith doesn't, I don't want to be here, and here's the jokes, And then the show comes out, it's like 30 years after the fact. Apparently, that's the guy.
Yeah.
The cop goes, you know how fast you were going? I'm guessing too fast. It's fucking hilarious. And he's a great actor. He's in Woody Allen movies.
Yeah.
So he popped into my head as a guy that, like, fuck it, this is me.
Yeah.
And I don't care. Because he went south.
Yeah.
And came back. I asked you, and I'll let you do the answer. You work with Russell Brand. You work with Dennis Miller. There's Gary Shandling. There's these guys and that guy. Me tonight is when I asked you, what's like if you had a clothesline to connect all of our hearts and minds, just one thing, what's the one thing, because they're so different, what was the one thing we all have in common?
I believe the answer was that we have a comedy compass inside us. And you get to a point as a comedian where you just go, oh, from now on, I trust that compass. I'm strong enough. I am secure enough to trust that compass. When that compass points true north, that's it. I don't have to be a prick about it. I don't have to raise my voice. I just know, for me, this is the joke. This is the bit. This is the venue. This is how I handle this scene. This is what should happen here. You just trust that gut, whether you're shooting a movie, a sitcom, whether you're working a headline date in Vegas, whether you're doing a small club in the Iron Range in Minnesota, it doesn't matter. That compass goes zing, and you go, that's the joke. That's it. I trust myself. I trust this inner compass.
The Forbes interview from Podcast One just launched with the king of podcasting, Adam Carolla. On February 1st, we're dropping a new show. It's called Forbes Under 30, where we talk to young entrepreneurs, hosted by me, Steve Goldblum.
It's interesting because when you're a creator, that never leaves you. You always have this urge to want to create. Like, it's just who you are. You like the girl from Wreck-It Ralph. She knew she was a driver the whole time.
That's Martellus Bennett, one of our first guests. Who knew this NFL star was also an artist? He's that and much more. Subscribe to Under 30 on iTunes now, and be sure to give us a rating and a review.
I don't know if I've conveyed this to you. I've tweeted it. That will die with me. That will never leave me because, A, it's right. And you think of any argument you've had with a producer, and Buddy Hackett would tell me, of course you're right. They never walked the last 30 feet.
Yeah, right.
Meaning to the mic.
Exactly.
They got balls to get all the free stuff backstage and shake hands, but they couldn't go out there. You do it every night. You're going to argue with them?
Right.
I was like, oh, wow. But then yours landed so strongly because when we got back from Las Vegas after the NASCAR Awards, I did the set list show, Paul Provenza and Tony's show that they do.
Right.
And to the listener, you may not ever miss a set list show. If it's within 150 miles, you must go.
Yeah.
And what they do is you go on stage. Like if I walk on stage, I have to just talk. I don't know when it's going to start. So you just got to start vamping. And then there's a projector that puts a topic on the wall behind you. And you have to, the only rule is you cannot say it immediately. So my first one ever was friendship only glory holes. And you have to just act as if that's the bit.
Yeah.
And you go, and you go, and you just keep talking until you fucking construct this thing, take it apart and go, oh, Dolly Madison rest stop, that's funny, and the Turnpike in New Jersey. And I was in there, and I peeked through, and another guy peeked up and went, hello. And I realized this will never change. Little did I know. And so I'm doing the set list show. The last time I did it, the crowd was not there for the set list show, which means it is going to go horribly because it's such a specific thing. You're watching headliners free fall and build parachutes on the way down or not.
You are literally, in music terms, you are riffing over chord changes you don't know until they happen. You are completely improvising.
And you don't know the song.
Right.
It's not like we're going to do a Chuck Berry song. What are we doing tonight? We're going to do a Chuck Berry song.
Right, yeah. It's like, what are we going to do tonight? You'll see. That's what it's like.
My last one, the first time I did it at Nerd Melt, was D period, E period, R period, P period. Derp. But with the periods. And my game is, I gaslight I don't want them to ever see me looking. So I just sneak out of the corner. I got a good peripheral, I guess. Because a lot of comics just turn.
Do you have, is it told to you or is there a...
It's on the wall behind you. The
That's
audience sees it before you see it.
When do you see it?
Whenever you turn to look
around.
at it.
Okay.
Not right behind you, like off to the side.
Yeah.
So I'll drink water. Like, you can only get away with this once. Like, you're going to get hurt up there, buddy. You don't want... You're going to get electrocuted. And they all turn around and just take a quick peek. When they want to figure out who you're talking to in the back.
Right.
It's nobody. So they see it before you see it, right? So my whole game with the set list show is I will talk about Wally Schirra and how he defied NASA in space because Gus Grissom had died, to the point where they forget and they're engrossed in the story. And then by the time I land, fucking, are the DEF CONing us? That was one of mine. They are actually re-surprised.
Wow.
But I didn't know that until I was doing it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the fourth time I did it where every time I drove home, I went, why didn't I tie them all together at the end? There's only like 5 of them. Like, so that's why when you go to a friendship only glory hole, you got to realize maybe the deaf guy on the other side of the wall saying hello isn't conning me just because he says hello perfectly.
Yeah.
And the DERP, I told this long ass story. Paul Provenza, whose show it is, and I'm rounding third here, bear with me, and I'm going to take the catcher out and end his career a la Fassi. But not Bob, that would be a lot of chicks. So, Paul Provenza was the first headliner I ever opened for.
Wow.
And I said that on stage, and it was genuine. And I go, it was Catch a Rising Star in Princeton. Do you remember that, Paul? He
Yeah.
goes, he's like laughing, and I go,
club.
and we go up to his room between shows to eat, so nobody would go like, hey, there's the comic. Like, I just learning stuff on the fly with him. And he sat me down, he goes, but add 4 minutes to this, right? Every show you have to ask yourself, did everybody really participate? And I'm like tonight, everybody, did everybody, the audience has no fucking idea DERP is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And he goes, maybe make an acronym for yourself. Just write it in your wallet on a business card. Somebody gives you the business card, write DERP on the back. And then they just start like chittering or just say derp.
Yeah.
Like I gotta go, no, like what I'm saying isn't real. Go over there and look.
Yeah, yeah.
And the last time I did the setlist show, the crowd was not there for that. So it's a bunch of like teenagers, there's an old couple, there's Asian people, there's a black, a group of kids that came in from like USC. And if you're watching this for the first time, you're just watching guys eat shit and you don't know what's happening.
No.
Why are they putting jokes on the wall? Don't they know they're jokes?
Yeah.
Silence. However, that compass, I knew I was perfect.
Oh, that's great.
And at no time did I ever think to myself, uh-oh, it's not working.
Yeah.
Instead, I thought of you, the entire set, and that compass, the entire set, because the audience was staring at me like I was fucking insane, which you are when you're doing that.
Yeah.
And the value of that was, I'll never be able to explain to you how deeply embedded in my soul you will be for the rest of my life.
Well, thanks. It's just a capsulation of everything I've learned from great comics and watching them. When I first got to town, I mean, I was off the turnip truck. And, you know, I'm an Italian from Wisconsin, so I have this odd sort of curse in that I look, and I remember the only time I was ever comfortable really on the road was New York, because in other places, I would go to the corner. I was so bashful and shy. I would go to the corner of the bar and have a beer or something, and people thought I was arrogant or whatever. And I'm just petrified. And I'll never forget going to Catch the first time on 2nd Avenue in New York. And it was the only place they knew. Louis Ferranda was bartending. And
Jeff.
And I'm alone. He doesn't even know who I am. I'm just over in the corner. I've got a 3-minute spot or whatever. And he looks at me, and he doesn't think I'm arrogant because he's in New York, and he recognizes it, and he goes, hey, you want a beer? And I go, thank you, yeah, I'd love a beer. And he just hands me a beer, and I realized I have this thing. So I would sit in the back, especially when I first got to L.A., and just watch. And I saw Richard Pryor go up on stage. This is right after Live in Concert, which is still maybe the greatest stand-up special of all time.
Impeccable.
So he walks up on stage to a standing ovation in the small room, the original room at Comedy Store. The place, the roof is literally being blown off just from the applause.
I would say
he
figuratively.
goes up there.
Hold on. I would say figuratively, but sure.
He okay.
Yeah, I noticed guys use
Man, maybe not at the old Ciro's, but so
well done.
He is a minute, 2 minutes of straight applause. He gets up and he just starts in on new material because he has another special in 3 months. This one was so hot. And he just starts in and he's getting nothing. And he's getting nothing. And he goes, and at one point he goes, 12 minutes in, nothing. I'm freaking out. I'm like, holy Christ, I barely got my bib overalls off. I mean, I'm like, this is unbelievable. And he's like, no. And he just says, listen, I know y'all motherfuckers are expecting the drunk wino bit and the other bits and shit like that, but I got another special coming out in like 3 months, and I got to work on new shit, and this is the way I write. And he stopped, and he went right back into material off the list. And I said, oh, my fucking God. Where do you get balls that big? And I registered, and I learned from that. And then like 6 months later, I saw Keaton. And I had a spot that night
Buster.
or something. Michael Keaton.
It was a talkie. Michael Keaton, people don't realize, was fucking
started
hilarious.
to brilliant
reading
fucking
Bazooka
stand.
Joe comics on stage.
So and talking about living in the moment on stage. Keaton did it better than almost anybody I saw. And I'm watching all the comics in the original room. And I'm listening. I'm right in the back of the room, and I'm hearing two salesmen in the back of the room who just came from the hotel, and they were like, yeah, this will be a lot of fun. And they get into a conversation, and Keaton walks up next to me. He's about to go on. And I'm just, oh, my God, it's Michael Keaton. You know? And the MCs are like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, from, he was on some sitcom at the time or something, blah, blah, blah. Please welcome Michael Keaton. He goes up. He vamps for 7 minutes on the snippet of conversation he overheard these two salesmen talking about. And
did he say,
again,
I just overheard?
No.
Okay.
He just, boom, went into it. Like pre-set list. Just bang, I'm running with this. I thought, where do you get the fucking balls? And it's funny.
See, it's interesting. You keep saying, where do you get the balls? And I'm not putting myself with Richard Pryor. I'm not putting myself with Miller. I'm just putting myself as like-minded. To me, it must be addressed. Otherwise,
yes,
I can't get out of the house. There's too much shit in front of the door.
That's where I learned that it's the muscle inside those kinds of comics. And I said, I wonder if I have that muscle. And I slowly but surely had to start to exercise that. Not just jokes, not just written for me, because in me, I wanted to try some other things. So to learn that from those kinds of guys, and to learn from guys like you and Russell, and to see you guys work, and Dennis and Gary and everybody I've worked with, from Latifah to Sinbad.
All hell the queen.
Sinbad can get out
45 king.
Sinbad can get out of a dead sleep and do 40 minutes. It's
I love Sinbad.
Fucking
if you're
believable.
bald-headed on Monday, don't come to work with hair down to your butthole on Wednesday. That's all.
It's unreal, the muscle that guy has.
How do you start exercising that muscle? I know it's just begin.
Well, you start by saying, I cannot care what the response is if I'm in front of an audience. It's the only place to exercise that muscle is in front of an audience.
Here's the thing. That exercised muscle, the audience response, we're so conditioned, it doesn't need a response. You are saying what is yours. I will.
Yes,
You're saying what has happened. I
Yes.
didn't say no. He actually retired, thinking they were going to laugh. I'm giving them data. So if somebody
Right.
sneezes and I say God bless you because I'm present, I'm not like, what? Nobody's gonna laugh because I say God bless you.
You know who was the transition for me? Shandling. Because I came out of the Seinfeld, the Leno, the Robert Klein, write it, expand it, make it funny, and then looking at guys who took that, like Billy Crystal, and expanded it sort of inside of those boundaries and still found some ways. But then Gary was the guy who, when I would watch him live, it wasn't just the jokes. He'd go into the crowd. He'd respect the moment. He would acknowledge the moment. And sometimes it would go off track for 10 minutes. And I realized off track isn't off track. That's the track. That's his track. And I went, holy shit, you can do this and do material and live in the moment and then plug in from the energy you're getting back into your material. And I went, wow, I got to see if I got this.
You
I
need
gotta
to write
exercise
this.
more.
Like, this is a book. Like, because you're talking comedy the way I only ever want to talk about comedy, as a science, a grid, and art, music. Like, you could bend the note.
Yeah.
Or just stop playing. You don't have to fade out.
Well, I was a musician, so I approach it that way, and I even approach it as me. Like,
you were
to
writing
me,
pop songs, and then you handed in, Darkness on the Edge of Town and went, go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, to me, the litmus test is always, what is the best musical pairing for this comedian? Like, when you figure that out.
I do that all the time.
When you figure that out, you go, oh, that's his ID. That's who he is. That's who he or she is. That's that person.
Yeah, it's interesting that the moment being identified to get like Zen Buddhism, but it is reality what we're talking about, the absurdity that we have to come to a place to be in a moment, identify the moment, talk about the moment, and then go back to what's normal, which is something we wrote 5 years ago that's fake. But the reality is the reality. I just heard these two guys talking about shower rings at a fucking Ramada in Des Moines, Iowa.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. If that is whatever Michael Keaton's thing was, or Richard Pryor going, hold on, because he senses disappointment. It's a service industry, Jeff.
Yeah.
And if you serve shitty food, they don't come back.
Yeah.
So you got to go, you may not like the way this tastes, but that's because you haven't chewed it this way and you're eating it for the first time.
And come back in 3 months when I got the recipe perfected.
But I guarantee that audience started laughing right after Pryor said that to them because they appreciated it differently. They knew they were seeing him like, this is the bare bones of this, and I'm going to riff, as opposed to what happened to the guy that said, my heart said, don't move. Shouldn't eat all that fucking pork. Did you say the wino? One of the best bits of all time. Yeah. Wino, don't worry about nothing but running out of wine. Wino, fuck with Dracula. Hey, man! And I'll tell you why it's the best bit. What are you doing peeking at those people's window? And Mom coming, yeah, nigga, you in the Cape. For that to work, the Dracula has to stop looking in a window and go, who, me? Yeah, man, you in the Cape, man.
I know.
You in the Cape. The only way that works is if the Dracula goes, me?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing peeking at those people's windows?
And that's so real.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
he makes
so
it real because in that moment, that's off camera, the vampire goes, oh, me? Yeah, man, you in the Cape. Dirt all on your neck. What
that's
the fuck
why,
you doing?
and boy, that's why he is still the lighthouse. He is still the beacon that turns and turns and turns and is never going to go out. That's why you can go back to what Richard Pryor did relentlessly and find things you need and find the way to structure it. Like I remember he did a line, if I'm not mistaken, the joke, and he did the best white guy voice of all time.
Keep it up, buddy.
Hey, why do you guys grab your dicks? And the answer was, well, nigga, you done took everything else.
He took everything.
But he called the white guy nigga. It made me laugh so fucking hard.
It's amazing.
Thought, wow.
And the first white voice I heard him do was when he was jogging. Old white dude just passed my ass. Uphill. And he called him and he goes, there you go. Keep it up, buddy. Keep it up. Just talk the shit at me, man. And that guy just like the idea of an old white guy, like Richard Pryor's never not been famous as it's just a guy like, keep it up, buddy. Like one day you'll be in as good a shape as this 80-year-old white guy. And it's Richard, like he boxed with Ali, like goofing off.
Yeah. And
Ali would go, take that with you as he's walking back. Like he's describing the Ali Spinks fight.
Wow.
And it's like he's talking about a boxing match, and do you remember this at all?
I don't.
Spinks beats Ali, and Ali's like, fuck that, rematch tomorrow. And they're like, oh, how about six? So they settle on something like 6 weeks or whatever it was, and Ali just beat the shit out of him.
Yeah. Because
he goes, Leon just fight. He just moves his body a lot. He's very physical, like Carlin's underrated as a physicalities.
Yeah.
Goes, like a fucking bug all over. And Ali just grabbed his ass and said, not tonight, nigga, nope. Every time you start some shit, I'm just going to hold your ass like we slow dancing. So I'm going to let you go. Take that with you. And that was the fight. He holds them, and then when they get broken up, he would just drill him in the fucking chest as they were walking away from each other. And Ali was like the only guy that could fight walking backwards. Gosh, Amazon banner on my website, Luke Johansson. Use this, friends, and tell everybody you know to use it if you're going to Amazon anyway. Hey, oh my God, we're just talking about the fucking Dracula bit, right?
Yeah.
The wino. Right there. JJ, hey, man. Right there. Just picked up stuff through the Amazon banner at jmoore.com. Long time coming. I want to contribute some scratch for your son's black college fund of his choice. As the longtime Moorier since back in the day when you were doing, hey, how much you bench with Emilio Estevez, Christopher Walken Keitel, Mohr Sports, and through the Mohr Stories podcast. Thank you for being a beacon of positivity with your comedy, acting, radio, and podcast. As a diagnosed bipolar, manic depressive, being able to hear your comedy and approach to life helped a lot of shitty days get better through laughter. Your continued efforts are appreciated by millions, so thank you, brother. I don't know what you bought, Luke. That's why I went to this read. I didn't mean to wash my own balls there, but I'm glad to be able to read Bipolar, Manic, Depressive, because I just did a corporate New Orleans for a bipolar advocacy group, and it's so tricky, man. You got to take like 6, because I work with, I'm in a program that ends in anonymous, 2 of them actually. I doubled down. And if you're like sponsoring somebody, it's like bipolar. You have to take like not now, but maybe 10 years ago, 6 pills every day so you don't want to kill yourself.
Right.
But if you take that 7th pill, rehab, can't fuck around.
Wow.
It's like people that overeat. Like, no,
Yeah.
eat to live, but don't have bread. Come on. You know, so bipolar, we got to remove the stigma here, folks, because they get manic and they feel great. So I don't have to take my medication, and then the crash is precipitous. So,
Wow.
Luke Johansson, you sent this to me, obviously to be read on the podcast, which means you're very brave. I don't know what you bought, so email me again. But thank you for using the Amazon banner. Chet Waterhouse, J. Moore's son, Meredith Daniel Moore, going to the, hopefully, black college of his choice. Thoughts, Chet?
Man, oh man, kids, stay in school. Have a little something to fall back on, because do you have any idea what the percentages of young men or women going from college and actually making a living at sports? It's next to nil, and you're white.
I'll tell you
Be
one
careful.
thing. If you could imagine.
That was brought to you by Nardley's Red Bloody Meat Market. The only time you'll see white meat at Nardley's is when we cut our thumb.
What I love about Chet Waterhouse is the well. There's a well beneath the well, beneath the well, beneath the well,
Right.
and I'm always fucking surprised. And I don't want you to ever spill it. I don't know. It's like
That well analogy brought to you by Macintosh Snuff Powder. Shove a little Scott up your nose with Macintosh.
Earl Campbell with the competitor skull, I believe, on the beach with a white woman. And, well, I don't think anybody's going to buy skull anytime soon. Ball one to Mark Grace. Your discussions on comedy, I want you to come back, and with no apologies, I'll figure out some type of outline, and what I'm thinking. It's time travel. We
I'll
do
do it.
time travel.
Anytime.
Comedians do time travel.
Yeah.
I had this conversation with my buddies in Japan, so I could use this fucking app to talk to him, then I'd spend $5,000. And he was asking me about it, and I go to the stage, and then he stopped clapping before I got to the mic.
I love that.
But I noticed, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but if you can't applaud to the mic, that makes me feel lonely. Because it's not that far a walk. B, I'm the only comedian on the show. And what you're saying is, we think you're funny, but we think you're to their funny. And I pointed to where I was. So now I got to put them where I was when they stopped. I know exactly where they stopped clapping. And then back to the mic, back and forth.
Yes.
It's too kooky to get into now. But I talk to you about it. Because if you talk about fucking time traveling, people think you're on LSD.
Right.
But as a comic, you're telling them some shit that happened as a kid. You got to bring them there.
Yeah.
Like a parabolic flight, is that what they're called?
Like, yeah.